Hey there, super friends. It's Kev, host of Everything is Awesome. Another bonus episode right here on Monday. Yeah, we had bonus Friday. Now we're having bonus Monday. I did a couple of these shorter interviews that, well, they were only supposed to be 15 minutes long. And you noticed that they were probably averaged about 35 minutes. I just can't keep my trap shut, if you haven't noticed here on Everything is Awesome. But yes, we have another bonus episode coming up right here. I sat down and chatted for only a brief period of time, Howard Eisenberg, who, after talking to him, I realized is a very interesting person, and I'm going to try to get him back on the show because he has so many stories. He's turning 90 very, very soon. So this is a man who fought in World War II, and he worked with Eddie Fisher, which you'll hear in this interview. But I didn't even know what that meant when him and I were sitting down and speaking. That's Carrie Fisher's father. That is Princess Leia's dear old dad. That is the Darth Vader in this situation here. It's so cool. There's so many stories that he had that we didn't even get into. But here's, stay tuned. Coming up after the intro is just a little short interview, about half hour long. It's a bonus interview for you here on Everything is Awesome. And don't worry, on Wednesday we will be back with part 2 of my conversation with Mr. Jeff Stormer from last week's episode. But I just had so many of these little mini ones recorded that I wanted to get them out as bonus episodes. They didn't really fit into the schedule anywhere. So I figured release them as bonuses. Why not? So here it is.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to Everything is Awesome. This is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. This week's guest is one of those great little finds that comes our way. It's going to be part of our bonus episode this week, and we have a common theme here on this show. If you haven't noticed, and this is it's for the new listeners. It's for our guest this week. The theme is storytelling. No matter what you do or what our guests do, storytelling is kind of in the wheelhouse. And usually when we get into a deep storytelling conversations, we're on the phone or in the studio with an author. And that's what we have this week with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show this week's guest. Probably should have verified his last name before just hopping on the phone and hopping on the interview. As he'll learn to discover, we do things very loosely here, very very much on the fly. Please welcome to the show, Howard, and I'm going to try not to butcher it, Eisenberg.
That sounds right to me.
Perfect. Thank you for being on the show, sir.
It's I never turn down an invitation, whether it's to a party or a show.
Perfect. And we try to keep things loose like that. We like to have fun. Tangents are very welcome. You can ask any one of our listeners or our past guests. I had a guest on recently. Our conversation somehow ended up being 2 hours long, and we did not even talk once about what he was there to promote. We ended up just talking about everyday life. And it was such an unexpected turn of events, but that's what happens on this show from time to time. This is one of the ones where we try to keep it reined in, especially when we're talking to a fellow East Coaster, so that we aren't up too late. And again, like I said before we started the show, thank you for being willing to do this so late.
Well, I'm still awake.
So you have a couple books that you have written that was sent our way to kind of talk about. Before we get into that, do you want to talk about how you began writing and how you got into being a storyteller?
Actually, it's funny that you should say that because just realized recently that that's what I am, a storyteller. I've been doing it for about 70 years.
Oh, wow.
And I never noticed.
Yeah, you know,
but
that's...
I usually tell other people's... I've been telling other people's stories all my life, and now all of a sudden, people are asking me about my story. It's kind of interesting. And not that my story is interesting that I suddenly realized it.
Well, you know what? Everyone, I think, has the ability to be a storyteller. I'm not... I like to dabble in writing here and there, but I would never fancy myself a writer or an author, so to speak. I would always say I'm a storyteller because that's, you know, I think everyone has that ability. It's just that what medium do you choose? Is it writing? Is it music? Is it film? Is it podcasting for some people? And you seemingly have chosen becoming an author and writing. Is your first novel Guess Who's Zoo?
No, I've been writing for, as I said, a very long time.
Okay.
I started in the Army, World War II. I guess this is Memorial Day, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So for those listening, happy Memorial Day.
It may not be when you play your bonus.
Yeah.
I started as an 18-year-old in the Army when I was in the infantry just for the last 6 weeks of the war in Germany, crossing the Rhine River, chasing the Germans at that point. So when we settled down in SS barracks after the Germans had surrendered, and my commanding officer said, I see that you have had a couple of years of college, so how about writing us a newspaper just to keep the guys busy? So I did, and when I saw people, I interviewed a few of the guys and had no experience doing it, but it just seemed that it was fun to do. And when I saw them reading the Company K Rifleman, which is the name I gave the newspaper, I said to myself, I want to do this the rest of my life. So that's how it started for me. That's
fascinating. We don't have. You would be our first veteran of any sort, especially World War II. That's fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about your time in the war and what experiences you had there that kind of have shaped you as a writer?
Well, I think I found myself crossing the Rhine River in a rubber boat with machine gun bullets going overhead.
Crazy.
As my first experience. I had just gotten there, and as I said, it was 6 weeks before the war ended, but I didn't know it was going to end that quickly.
Yeah.
And it was like being in a movie at that point.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get hit. We got on the other side and assembled, and I was carrying a bazooka. I didn't know how to fire because they just handed it to me when I joined the unit. And I had only fired it once in basic training, so we moved forward to get the machine gun that had been firing at us, and the captain said, bazooka up front, and I didn't know what the hell to do, but fortunately, the guy who had all the rockets in a satchel or whatever it was turned and ran to the rear, and so I had to chase after him. By the time I got back with the rockets and hoping somebody could show me how to use a bazooka, they had already taken the machine gun there. So that was one of my favorite experiences because I survived.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's there's obviously not many people who can get into the line of fire and tell the same tale.
Well, it was there were some more firefights, but not a lot, and then it was over, and that's when I started writing. And I'd rather write than fight.
Yeah, no, I mean my mindset is anything but fight. I run away at the first drop of a hint that there's going to be a fist thrown, let alone any kind of gunfire.
Oh, you would have been a guy. You would have been the guy with the bazooka shells.
Yeah, exactly. I'm grateful for. I'm in my early 30s, so I'm grateful for the world that I grew up in as a kid, where there wasn't like a real need until like I ended high school, with 2011, obviously, or not 2011, 2001, with 9/11. Obviously, there until then there was really no need to drive me, and there was a short period of time where I had a buddy who joined just before 9/11, and just before 9/11 happened, like he also came back to our school to recruit. And there was a time where like everyone was saying, you should go, you should join. And like they have, I'm a computer guy, so I can repair computers. They have a program for that where you can go do that. And it was a thought at one point, but I think the old run, the fleeting aspect of my life kicked in, and the fear aspect of my life kicked in before I actually signed anything. But I do. Before we go anywhere else, I do want to thank you for your service. And
no, I wasn't. I did not win the war single-handed. Believe me.
Yes. It's you and all your brothers in arms. So thanking you and everyone else who's ever fought a war.
That's the first time I ever told that story, other than to my grandson.
That's what I don't get a chance to talk to many people that were alive, let alone fought in that time. I think my grandfather was in a war, probably World War II. I don't really know. We weren't really close. But when I get to hear, even if it's just listening to other interviews or television programs, I'm always fascinated listening to history from people who are actually there and experienced it. So I thank you for sharing that story with us.
Well, it's now that it's all over, it's a fun story. While it was happening, it wasn't that much fun.
I'm sure. It's anything that's that intense is fun in hindsight. Hindsight's always where you can have a much better view at things.
I've had the history. Other kinds of history came later. I worked with Eddie Fisher for 5 or 6 years, and if you remember Eddie Fisher, I don't know if you do. He was a superstar singer of the '50s.
Oh, okay.
Debbie Reynolds, Liz Taylor were a couple of his wives, and so I was his publicist, and I wrote for his TV show, and it was the same kind of feeling of adventure. I was doing something that was really interesting, that you just ordinarily read about in the fan magazines or a feature story about somebody like that. So it really attracted me. I wrote a lot of articles. I ghosted a lot of articles for him, and it was kind of exciting. And I met my wife through him. My wife turned out to be the most important thing in my life. Yeah. I don't know if you know it, but she wrote a book that unless you have children, you may not know about it. What to expect when you're expecting?
Oh, I do. I have a 4-year-old son, and I have a 2-year-old daughter. And we had that book at one time during the first pregnancy. So that's very interesting. That's wow. That's cool. That's cool.
I met Arlene at outside the Paramount Theater stage door when Eddie was just breaking in through the crowd of singers of his age and his time, and there was Arlene with her mother who wanted to sing, wanted to hear him sing, and she just came along. Thank God for that.
That's a great story. I'm sorry if I sound distracted. I have a pile of books next to me, and I was like flipping through them to see, because this is where I have like some of the older books that we don't really read anymore. And I was like, it's got to be in here somewhere. I was just flipping so that's why I sound a little distracted. I wanted to see if I could find it. So you
you may have one of the 34 million copies.
Yeah. No, we that one I did. I don't think I read that one in particular. That was the one that my fiance ended up reading. There's a like what to expect when you're a father or something like that.
They have a whole series of books, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot about parenting for both the mother and the father in the books.
Yeah.
So they didn't neglect the father. They did not neglect the father.
No. I don't know. That was, I guess, because she had that one in her hand. I was like, well, I'll go buy another one, and I'll buy one, and that's whatever one I found is what I picked up. You mentioned that, and you kind of talked about it briefly here, that you spent a long time writing for other people, and it all started with that newsletter that you created in the war.
Right.
At what point did you start writing for yourself?
Well, writing for myself and writing for other people, it's really the same thing. I've been asked lately to do more writing about myself, and so I've done that. I just did a piece for the New York Observer, which was a writer's journey, talking about, it started with that story of how I became a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And it ran through all of the books I've written, the musical I've written, and the movie script. I write with my son. He's an excellent author, and he's a better writer than I am. And we work together on a musical that's had its second reading, and we're looking for some theaters that might like to produce it.
Very cool.
And we have a screenplay that he's just doing a second draft of it. So I'm having a lot of fun, and it's. The fun doesn't stop. Philip Roth stopped at 82, at 80, and Alice Munro stopped at 82, and I haven't turned off the engines yet.
I think that's one of the great, like, if you find something that you love, it's one of those things that it's hard to turn off. Like, it's what you want to do until, you can't physically do it anymore. And that's like, I'm sure people who listen to this, and you may have gathered, like, talking is one of my favorite things. Whether it's me hearing my own voice or just having interesting conversations, I don't know what it is, but, I would not be able to live without, like, this medium, podcasting. Like, it's what I love doing, and I can't ever see stopping, just like you keep on going with your writing. You mentioned, a musical, a screenplay. You obviously have Guess Who's Zoo, Adorable Scoundrels, some children's books that you've written. Is there a particular medium within writing that you prefer or find easier?
I like to experiment. That's why I did a screenplay. That's why I did a musical. It's just try everything, and that's why I got into children's books. Not directly because of that, but because my wife, Arlene, was very much involved with, for example, toddlers. So I just recently came out with Adorable Scoundrels, which is a book of 43 whimsical little poems about toddlers. So I've actually claimed the title of the toddler poet laureate because nobody else has the title. So why shouldn't I be the guy?
There you go. You got to claim your titles.
Yeah, so I have the book here if you want me to read it to you, just so you know.
Yeah, could you? That'd be great.
But I do want to mention though that the books that your kids, this is for parents, but the books that you should be reading with your kids are the Guess Who Zoo, the Guess Who Farm, and the Guess Who Neighborhood. They're for ages 3 to 9.
Oh, okay.
But little kids absolutely love them, so I could read one of those to you too, but to go to Adorable Scout. This is for you. You're a parent.
Yes.
And you're a parent of a toddler.
Yes, definitely.
So I think you will recognize this. Do you remember when you were going out to when you were in the courtship with your fiance, and
yes.
you'd go out to the best restaurant you could afford, and you'd be drinking wine by candlelight?
Yes.
Well, here's what it's like afterward when you have the toddler, and I'm sure you'll recognize this. It's called Floor Walker. It's illustrated by Susan Robinson, who has a picture of a table with the wife sitting down. There's a candelabra there, but the husband is holding the toddler, walking around. Carafes of wine by candlelight is how we used to sup, but since our little darling came, we dine mostly standing up.
Yep, that's truer words have not been spoken.
And there's one here that I'm sure you'll recognize too, almost. It's called Artichoke. It has a picture of a little girl with crayons in her nose and 3 crayons in her mouth. Someday she'll be a Dali. Someday she'll be a Dali, a Renoir, or Van Gogh. At least an Andy Warhol is not a Picasso. For the moment, though, she's stymied, and we admit we're beaten by our toddler's artist block. she thinks crayons are for eating.
Oh, you know what? I knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood right now. In the 4+ years, my son's a little older than 4. I have not had to deal with eating of crayons yet.
Well, I hope you will not. The best defense against that is you eat all the crayons first.
There, yeah. You know what, though? I should take that back because my son did eat paint as we were when he was like 2 years old. He did eat paint while we were doing some projects for Mother's Day or something. So if it's not one art form, it's the other.
Right. But this one I'm sure you'll recognize. I'm sure your son did this. It's called Unholy Roller, and it's a picture of a little kid in a bathroom. He will not use the potty. He is stubborn on this issue, but loves going to the bathroom to unroll the toilet tissue.
Oh, God.
There's a picture of a little kid just totally wrapped up in toilet paper.
Yeah, both my kids, both of them. My son actually probably still does it, and my daughter learned that from him. So yes, that's very, very much true.
So that's what these poems are all about. It's really the wonderful world of toddlers.
Yeah,
we love them, and we are scared to death of them sometimes.
It is. It's parenthood for me has been such a fun journey. As much as a I don't know what the opposite of fun is. Scary journey, I guess. It's been every emotion you can think of, all wrapped into one long experience, and it's. When I'm 30, I'll be 32 this year. So my son, I was 28 when my son was born, 27, 28. And I'd say about a year before that, I always said, I'll be in my mid-30s when I have my first kid. One kid is all I want, blah, blah, blah. It's amazing that the instant that you find out how everything changes, and then when the instant you first meet, for me, my son, I like instantly, like I was happy to be a father. I couldn't wait to have more of them. And those are the moments I look back to, like when my daughter is throwing her body into the floor, screaming and throwing a temper tantrum because she said she wanted a hot dog. And I said, I'm cooking a hot dog, but it wasn't ready for her fast enough. Like those moments of just the temper tantrums, I just have to close my eyes and think back to when she was born and say, this is what it's all about.
Well, I have a poem just for you. It's called Tactical Decision. And it shows a little girl having a temper tantrum on the floor, on the street, and her mother has her back turned to her. And the poem is called Tactical Decision. Embarrassed by tantrums? Get this tactic down pat. Stand aloof and exclaim, gosh, whose child is that?
Oh, God, that's so my fiance. Every time we're in public, she just says, sir, can you calm down your child to me? I'm like, yes, incredibly embarrassing. Oh, God. And obviously that comes with experience as being a parent and even a grandparent at this point, I'm sure.
At this point, I have just become a great grandparent.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's got to be, I guess, more fun for as the grandparent or great grandparent because you get all the cuteness.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Oh,
I just love being. I had my first child about the same time you did. I think I was like 27, 28, and the whole experience with 3 kids was just the best piece of my life. Not there have been so many great pieces, but one of the greatest.
Yes.
Kids are so wonderful when they're nice.
Yeah, that's the key word. When they're
not being awful.
Yeah. It's you know what I've discovered. I'm an only child, and I don't know if that's what originally drove me to like say, I'll have one kid when I'm older, but having the first kid, glad having it in my late 20s versus my mid to late 30s, because like now in my early 30s, I already feel like I'm falling apart trying to keep up with the kids. But just the thought of having one now, like that, like as soon as I had the one, like after he kind of got out of that cute phase, it was like, I need to have another one. And like 3 seems to be 3 or 4 is our magic number. Like we know we're going to have some more once we know we can handle being outnumbered. Like right now we know we can handle 1-on-1, but we don't think we can handle being outnumbered quite yet.
Well, it's going to be a great trip for you. You're just seeing the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And of course, when they get to be teenagers, well, there's one, your daughter fits this one. It's called Positively Revolting. Little girls are delicious. Steal your heart by all means. Ain't it a shame that they turn into teens?
Oh God, yeah. That's my fear is when she's a teenager. That is because I look at her now and I know like I'm already wrapped around her finger. She's a teenager. It's either going to be a lot of screaming or she's gonna look at me and bat her eyes and she's gonna get what she wants. I don't know. Everyone warns me of the teenage years with both kids.
Well, that's why it was so much fun to write this book. I used to read these when Arlene was on a book tour, and she would introduce me by saying, "If you're going to have a toddler, you better have a sense of humor." Mm-hmm. And then I'd get up and read some of these poems. That was more than 20 years ago, and I never got around to doing the book until just this year.
Well, I'm glad you did. They sound great, and I know if people are interested in picking up Adorable Scoundrels, they can go to Amazon. We'll have a link for that in the blog post that goes with this podcast. But I'm sure if you just search on Amazon Adorable Scoundrels, you'll be able to find it. You also have, is it called the Guess Who series, or is it just Guess Who Zoo? And
no, Adorable Scoundrel is for parents.
Yes.
A bunch of books for kids.
Yes.
Guess Who Zoo, Guess Who Farm.
Okay.
I could read a little from that if you like.
Yeah, if you know what, before we wrap up the show, if you want to read a little bit from one of your Guess Who books that are for the kids, that'd be great.
Okay, sure, I'd be happy to. Well, I could do. You think your kids would like a farm or the zoo?
Zoo, the zoo, yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, it starts with a narrative.
Okay.
It's the zookeeper. All these stuff I do is in rhyme. Not all the things. I've written books. They're not always. Obviously not always in rhyme. But for children's books, rhyme books are a wonderful introduction to reading.
Yes.
And because they're fun. And so a lot of educators say, Dr. Seuss is great for kids because they're having fun.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's what kids are all about.
Yeah, totally.
So the zookeeper was fast asleep. He woke up in a stew. Good heavens, somebody stole my keys. How can I guard my zoo? He spied a note attached nearby, tacked there upon a tree. I took your keys and freed my friends. It was signed The Monkey. A postscript followed, and it said, we like this zoo the best, but we will not return until all of our names are guessed. So will you do this for us? An impatient lion roared. We really need some fun. We've all been kind of bored. The monkey called down from the tree, please play our guessing games. Said zookeeper, that's silly. I already know your names. The monkey paused. You're right, he said, but children love to play. Ask them to do the guessing. You'll get back your keys today. Okay, said zookeeper. Kids, please take center stage. Get ready to start guessing. It's time to turn the page. And then the next page says, are you ready to start? And there's all the zoo and ocean animals. I could take one of them. Let's say I won't tell you. My coat is bright and speckled. My favorite lunch is leaves. I daintily nibble down below, or high on the tallest trees. My neck is as long as a light pole. It makes little children laugh. When I stretch it out to lick your hand, you'll know I'm the
giraffe.
You are a smart guy.
Thank you. Oh, that's great. You know what? I know for sure that the zoo book that my kids would love, because my son especially, because he's been to the zoo several times. He loves the animals, and giraffes and lions are like his favorite. So Yeah, I thank you for sharing some pages from both your books there. Adorable Scoundrels, which is for parents about toddlers, which I like. That sounds like something every parent will connect with. And your Guess Who Zoo book for the kids sounds wonderful. I that is something that I definitely would love to pick up for my children. I know they would love that book. Is that now? Are these books available all on Amazon? Or
Oh
anywhere
yeah,
else?
of course. Anything's available on Amazon.
That's
you
true.
name it.
Yeah.
You want a spaceship? Just dial Amazon.
Amazon they're slowly turning into the Skynet of our world.
Right.
So
we have mixed feelings about it, but it sure is convenient.
yeah, it is. I feel the same way. Just a final note on books and the world that we live in today. I feel the same way about. I prefer to hold a book, in my hand and flip the page and actually see the illustrations, if it's a book with illustrations, versus the digital content. Like, obviously, it's really convenient to have digital content, or really convenient to order a book online and have it delivered versus going to a brick and mortar store. But it's a weird balance that I live in, because I am part of that new generation, but like I still am old enough to like know the joys of walking into a Blockbuster, for instance, to go to like a different medium. But like the joy of walking into a Blockbuster to rent a video, or to go into a music store and buy a record, like those experiences aren't really around anymore for these kids. And everything's digital, and it's a great convenience for everyone. It is. But there's something about the physical product, I think, that you can never replace.
Especially walking up and down the aisles in a bookstore, making discoveries.
Yeah, that's how I found a lot of my favorite books when I was a kid. Was just walking, whether it be walking up and down the aisles in the bookstore, or when Scholastic would have their sales at my school, like just looking at all the tables full of all these wonderful books.
Right, or the library.
Yeah, like that's like, I mean, I'm glad that there's still like a decent library near us that we can take our kids to from time to time. It's I smile when my son says, I give him an option sometimes at night. I'll say, hey, you know what? We've been reading every night. Like, do you want to watch like a Mickey phone, like these little short Mickey Mouse cartoons that we watch on the phone, or do you want to read another book? And like 9 times out of 10, he'll pick a book. Like, I'm so glad that we live in that world still, where kids, I think kids still rather just read a book, because there's something more wonderful about it than seeing it play out in animation or whatever on TV.
Yeah, I think so too. Books are magic, and it's magic that we don't want to lose.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Howard, thank you for doing this show. It was great having you on. Thank you for, even more for sharing your stories with us. And of course, thank you and all your brothers in arms for everything you've done for this country.
Well, I can't accept the thanks. We just did. They said come, and we went.
Yeah. And
it was a war that it was a different kind of war than the ones we're fighting.
Yes.
Last 4 or 5.
And of course, before you leave, I just want to make sure people know to find you. They can find you on howardeisenbergauthor.com, and your Amazon author page, of course, amazon.com/author/Eisenberg. And you can find those books on Amazon. Are they available like at Barnes & Nobles and other brick and mortar stores?
There are a few, but nowadays it's so hard. Dr. Seuss it took him 27 publishers till he got published. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, no.
So I just decided to self-publish them.
Yeah, you know what? That's all the authors I speak to are self-publishers. It's again kind of the wonderful world we live in, where we have the ability to do that now. You make some sacrifices maybe if you become a self-publisher, but it's still it's the best way to get your story out there at the end of the day for some people. And I really admire people that self-publish. Like there's a lot of work that goes into it that I think the casual reader or readers don't really even know.
So, good for you for doing it. Again, thank you for doing the show.
All right, so the phone call that I had with Howard dropped right as I was kind of ending the show here. So we didn't get to officially say goodbye to Howard, but yet again, thank you to Howard Eisenberg for being on the show. What a wonderful conversation. I really do hope that we get him back on the show soon, so we can talk more about him than we already did. Make sure you find him on his websites that we've already mentioned. Make sure you find his books. His newest one is for parents about kids called Adorable Scoundrels on Amazon.com. Google that or Google his name, Howard Eisenberg, Adorable Scoundrels. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at RealAwesomePod, or you can follow me on Twitter at HHWST. You can find the show on Facebook.com/TEntertainment. You can find us on Instagram at Awesome Podcast. We're going to start doing some cool things with the different social medias and whatnot. I just got to come up with an official game plan. And of course, on the brand new, redesigned AwesomePodcast.com. You want to be a super friend? Well, you can. Coming very soon, in the next week or two, you'll see on the support page, you'll see Patreon supporters. You want to get in early on the Super Friend page? Well, on the support page, there's already a PayPal link. So if you want to support us, it helps keep the show ad-free. It just helps us pay the bills. We cover all the bills ourselves. And we continue to do so. We will always continue to do so. I've done it for the last 10 years. I'll do it for the next 10 years if I have to. But if you guys like the show, you like what you hear, you want to support a little bit, there's a PayPal donate link for now. We will have our Patreon. I want to commit to a date right now. July 1st is when our Patreon will be live for you guys. That doesn't just cover everything that's awesome. It also covers all of that's entertainment. The bulk of that right now is a lot of writing and this show and looking for RPG. That's the bulk of that's entertainment right now. And once we get the bills covered, then we'll go on and do bigger and better things. I'm really excited for the podcast. As I've said in some previous shows, we have some big, exciting things happening that I can't quite announce yet, but you guys are going to love it. We have some cool guests coming on. We have maybe some live shows coming up. Once the details are finalized and hammered out, you guys will be the first to know right here on Everything is Awesome and AwesomePodcast.com. Go on iTunes, subscribe to the podcast. That's very important. What's even more important is just telling your friends about the podcast, whether that's leaving a review on iTunes and giving it a 5-star rating. That iTunes math helps us get more listeners because more people will see it as there's more reviews, and the more people that listen to the show hear this, they leave reviews, and it just helps us secure more very cool, very awesome guests. That's not your thing, or you just forget to do it later because you're in the car right now, whatever. Just tell a friend. Put it on while you're driving the car. Let a friend listen to it. All these things help, spread the word, the good word of Everything is Awesome. You guys all stepped it up in the month of May. We had some very good numbers compared to April. And I think a lot of the audience came from the Once Upon a Wine crowd, which is great. And I thank you all for coming on board with this show. And I know what you do for them. You are a bunch of whiners, and you spread the good word of them. Be a super friend too. Spread our word. You can be a super whiner, combine it. That's what you kids do with people, right? That you want shipped together. You could buy names or something. I don't know. I'm getting too old for understanding you pop culture references. Anyway, I've babbled on long enough, my friends. Super friends. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on Wednesday in just 2 days when we finish our conversation with Jeff Stormer. And then after that, I believe we're going to be talking to Brian Durkin of Full Belly Laughs. And then we got Jason Ashley of Too Cool for Tabletop. And we have some other people that we cannot announce yet. But it's going to be good times right here. Only on awesomepodcast.com.
Everything is Awesome is produced by Crude Humor Studios. For more information about the podcast, please visit us online at awesomepodcast.com. Or if you're interested in advertising on the show, please email us at advertising@crudehumorstudios.com. Stream and download all episodes on iTunes. While you're there, please consider leaving a 5-star review. If you're a fan of the show, please let us know by following us on Twitter and Instagram @ThatEntertains.